But I wanted to get to a bigger point. Because the time comes, somewhat pun intended, for us to take the gloves off when it comes to Jake Paul.
Mike Tyson, the amount of people saying this is rigged was crazy.
Can break his mentality, then I've broken Jake. So this is why it's going to be an interesting fight, because I just don't look at it from a physical.
Stephen A. Smith reportedly reacts in disbelief after Mike Tyson and Anthony Joshua call out Jake Paul for alleged bribery attempts. Smith claims the sport has reached a critical tipping point. He insists boxing needs to put an end to these absurd spectacles. According to him, gloves might as well be taken away because Paul turns matches into scripted business deals. Smith argues that this kind of behavior disrespects true fighters and harms boxing's credibility around the globe.
Gano? Remember that monster? That Nigerian nightmare? Remember him? And then we saw him show up and show a little skill against Tyson Fury, who came there out of shape. What happened when he got into the ring with Anthony Joshua? He got put to sleep, much in the same way Nate Robinson got put to sleep. Boxing is a...
Anthony Joshua has already made his position crystal clear. When asked if he would go easy on Jake Paul or follow any special rules, AJ flatly rejected the notion. He stated that he only competes for real, with no conditions. As a world champion, Joshua emphasized that he cannot risk his legacy on gimmick fights or scripted outcomes and will never compromise the integrity of the sport for entertainment or money.
I think Jake is someone where I got to beat him mentally because he's a mental person. This is my observation. A lot of what Jake's preparation is based around is not only the physical aspects of training, but the way he thinks, meditation, breath work. And if I can break his soul and I can break his mentality, then I've broken Jake. So this is why it's going to be an interesting fight, because I just don't look at it from a physical standpoint. I know the person that's in front of me, and I know that I got to break it. That's what I said, I got to take his soul. It's not just physical, I got to take your soul in the ring.
Only person that can do that is God.
I knew he was going to say that.
Is he f***ing with your brain?
No, I don't know. That's what I was going to ask, is how do you plan on doing that? Like, when is it going to start?
Because everything...
I mean, obviously in the fights it's different, you know? But, I mean, when are you going to start taking it?
I've just seen in fights when I can see someone's, let's call it energy, frequency leaving their body. And that's what my goal is to do the same to you. You have that instinct. You can see it. When you're fighting, you can just see a small glimmer of someone that's just about to start fading. And then you just keep exploiting that, keep exploiting that until some people give up. Some people get knocked out. We'll figure it out. But as I said, for me, it's not just going in there and being dominating physically. I want to break him down spiritually and mentally.
That's some deep boxing.
Mike Tyson reportedly claims that Jake Paul tried to script parts of the fight. Tyson emphasizes that money was never a motivation for him, as he is already financially secure and the bout wouldn't affect his lifestyle. He explains that he agreed to step into the ring one last time purely for personal reasons. According to reports, Tyson fought not for profit but stood firm against any attempts to manipulate the outcome.
Changed my lifestyle financially. I'm a fighter. I feel good. I can do it. I feel I can beat this guy.
Come on. We're going to be in the building. I'm going to be there. Speaking of the exhibition with Roy, like when that exhibition happened, man, I felt like it was two of my...
Joe Rogan breaks down what he sees as a recurring pattern in Jake Paul's boxing career. According to Rogan, Jake consistently selects opponents who are physically bigger but strategically safer in other ways. He suggests these matchups aren't coincidental. Rogan points out that these fighters carry huge attention and name recognition, which benefits Jake regardless of the actual sporting outcome. Using Mike Tyson as an example, Rogan explains that legends naturally draw massive audiences just by stepping into the ring. This creates a scenario where entertainment value often outweighs true competition. Rogan hints that the results sometimes seem tilted in Jake's favor, leaving fans to wonder if these fights are genuine contests or carefully orchestrated spectacles designed to maximize profit and exposure.
That guy.
Well, it's like Matt always says, play to your strengths.
Yeah,
no
but
doubt.
you know, you got to take that payday. I mean, what did he make out of that fight? He probably made $10 million or something.
Yeah,
and Jake Paul's very smart, man. Like he gets guys that he's bigger
Bigger
than.
than,
The only
younger
time
than.
he fought another boxer his size was
He
Tom
lost.
Fury, and he lost. Tom Fury?
Good fight.
Tommy Fury.
Very
Tommy
good
Fury,
fight. Very good fight. You know, I think he's like any other young up-and-coming boxer. It's just everybody dismisses him because he's a YouTuber.
For sure. It's easy to dismiss him, but I was there when he knocked out Tyron, and I was like, man, I'm done with this kid. I never wanted to corner another fight in my life, man. I was like, yo, he just knocked my boy flat out on his...
Jake Paul responds to these accusations by dismissing them completely. He claims that people are creating stories simply because they resent his success. According to Jake, the notion that fights are scripted is a convenient excuse used by critics who refuse to acknowledge his growth as a boxer. He stresses that boxing commissions oversee every event and would never permit illegal manipulation. Jake insists that every opponent enters the ring willingly and that he trains rigorously to earn his victories. He believes the ongoing accusations are proof that he has shaken up the boxing world and forced traditional fans to confront a new reality they are reluctant to accept.
The amount of people saying this is rigged was crazy. They like showed this clip of Mike Tyson going to swing at me with a left hook, and he like stopped doing it, but saw I had my right hand up. So he would have like swung like this, I catch it and then shoot. He's leaning forward like I could have knocked him out. So that's why he stopped throwing it. And it's like they play this one clip and it has literally 50 million views on TikTok.
The Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight revealed a clear and dangerous mismatch from the very start. Former UFC champion Michael Bisping reacted sharply, pointing out that Jake Paul was far from ready to face an elite heavyweight like Joshua. He described the bout as a lesson in professional boxing, where timing, skill, and experience determine the outcome. Joshua's punches were precise and powerful, highlighting the gap in class. Bisping emphasized that the result was inevitable, as Paul lacked the tools, defense, and ring awareness needed to compete with a world-class boxer at that level.
Big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? A lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing, it's not MMA as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round, he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away?
Critics argue that influencer boxing has fundamentally changed the sport. With YouTubers and celebrities entering the ring, the focus has shifted from skill and legacy to views and revenue. Many feel that fights are now driven more by hype than by technique. The art of boxing, once defined by discipline and mastery, has taken a backseat to marketing strategies. These events generate huge income through sponsorships and streaming deals, fueling claims that outcomes matter less than profit. For traditional fans, influencer boxing often feels less like genuine competition and more like staged entertainment, with influencers simply wearing boxing gloves.
Rigged overall.
Oh, yes, rigged, dude. I mean, so many politics, even with, MMA, man, there's so many politics. There's no more art anymore. It's just, let's get an influencer in there. I get it. It's like generating money because our attention span is so short. You look at clips now, it's like 7 seconds. I saw a dude slamming a lady the other day and they were like, oh my God, that dude is, I'm like, well, what the do? I'm just gonna pick somebody and slam them. Where's the whole video? And our attention span is just so small. So money talks, of course. Yeah, let's get an influencer in there who has no style. But
the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight has drawn intense criticism from fans and analysts. Many feel the bout looked unnatural and overly controlled. Tyson's legacy as one of the most feared fighters in history makes the performance even harder to accept. Viewers question why Tyson seemed restrained and why moments that could have shifted the fight never materialized. For critics, this fight represents everything wrong with influencer boxing, reinforcing the idea that legendary fighters are being used to legitimize modern spectacles rather than compete authentically. As more footage circulates, scrutiny grows. Observers highlight instances where aggression appears muted and pacing feels calculated. The rhythm of the fight didn't match what fans expect from genuine high-stakes boxing, fueling suspicion that the event was designed to protect certain narratives. While no evidence confirms wrongdoing, the visual cues are enough to keep debate alive. The fight has become a reference point in discussions about scripted matches, strengthening public doubts about Jake Paul's biggest showdowns.
Being sued over their Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. And it's not because people think the fight was rigged, though I have questions, and that's what we'll get into. It's because it didn't work. And a lot of people were buffering and unable to watch it despite signing up to pay for it. Now, the bigger question I have about this fight is, how come no one is suing over the fight being rigged? There's a lot of questions, and there's evidence piling up that suggests it may have been somewhat rigged. Now, there's varying degrees of arguments. The first is that Tyson was required to complete 8 rounds for money. Some say that's how it was rigged. He's not going to go all out to shut down Jake Paul because he wants $20 million. Others have said he was told he's not allowed to do uppercuts because that would end Jake Paul and probably hurt him very badly. Those are the two principal conspiracies, I suppose. One is that Mike Tyson actually pulled his punches completely and tried to avoid fighting, which falls in line with that first conspiracy, I suppose, of rigging. Now, of course, my friends, you know, if you watched my video from before the fight, I thought it was going to be rigged for Tyson. Jake Paul doesn't look good having beat up an old man. I'm like, they're going to do something to have Mike Tyson win in the later rounds, and that way it'll be like the boomers and the Gen Xers who love boxing will see the champ fight one more time. Jake Paul is a young man, there's no harm in a young man losing to the great Tyson. They might say you got beat up by an old man, I'll be like, it was Mike Tyson. But maybe Jake Paul's got too much of an ego for that. So I was wrong. What I was right about, I was half right. I said if Jake Paul wins this, people are going to be pissed. And it's...
Nikisa Badarian steps in to address the criticism. He strongly denies any form of scripting or manipulation, emphasizing that such actions are illegal and impossible under professional boxing regulations. He argues that Jake actually performed better than the judges gave him credit for in several rounds. According to Badarian, losses and criticism are part of the sport, especially when popularity is involved. He believes Jake has gained more supporters despite the backlash. In his view, hate often comes hand in hand with fame, and Jake's rising profile naturally attracts controversy, regardless of the truth.
3-2 for Joshua heading into the 6th round, which again, a lot of people thought that he would dispose of him rather quickly. Can you give us an update on how he's doing? We know that he broke his jaw in multiple places, 2 places to be exact, and I believe he has revealed that he's had surgery since. How is he doing? How is he feeling?
He's doing great. Obviously, you know, there's periods of time during the day where there's a lot of pain, periods of time where there is no pain actually. Recovery process is 5 to 6 weeks, and he's focused on coming back as a boxer in 2026. This is a sport that he loves. This is a sport that saved him from the path that he was on in the past. And I think in a funny way, I'm kind of glad he didn't win. And I know that may sound harsh, but imagine if Jake Paul, 5 years into the sport in reality, probably 3 years into the sport in terms of 3.5 years in terms of fighting top level competition who are fighters, beat Anthony Joshua. What would be the motivation to continue to get better, to double down on your training, to grind even harder had he had beaten Anthony Joshua? So Jake always says the best lessons or the best wins are from your losses. And I believe that happened with Tommy Fury. And I 100% believe that happened here. Because if Jake is truly passionate about this sport, he now realizes that he has to even commit more time, more resources, more days into elevating his craft.
So you know, the injury obviously is different than your typical injury, because obviously it's right there. That's where you're getting punched. And as we were talking about with Eddie earlier, like that could sometimes change the trajectory of one's career. And there are some people who don't come back. Some do. Some have had great careers after breaking their jaw. Is there any part of you after seeing that says to yourself, hey man, you've made millions of dollars. It's been incredible. We built this thing. It's lasting far longer than your career, right? MVP can be a thing with or without Jake. He saw the event in July. We don't need to do this anymore. You proved your point. I don't want to see you get hurt.
I think
Jake's behavior before the Tyson fight became another source of suspicion. He openly claimed he would be victorious even before stepping into the ring. While confidence is normal for fighters, critics felt his certainty went beyond mere preparation. His calm demeanor and assured statements made some observers feel the outcome was already decided in his mind. To skeptics, this confidence seemed less like a competitive mindset and more like someone expecting events to unfold predictably. After the fight, Jake's reactions reinforced public skepticism. His body language suggested satisfaction rather than relief or exhaustion. Fans compared this to traditional fighters, who typically display visible emotional release after tough battles. The contrast heightened suspicions that the event lacked genuine risk. The fight between Jake Paul and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. sparked widespread disbelief. Julio appeared unusually passive throughout the bout, throwing very few punches and rarely pressuring Jake. For many viewers, it seemed like Julio was merely present rather than actively competing. This fueled accusations that the fight was never intended to be competitive, as fans struggled to understand why an experienced fighter would perform with such low urgency unless motivation was lacking.
Tyson successful. That's a really interesting choice, because it is a choice. And if you look at 90% of fights out there and you ask the person what's going to happen, they speak about what they're going to do physically. I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to give him a beating. I'm going to win. Something about their capacity physically. But this is Mike Tyson successful. And if you really think about that, if you look at this fight and look at the outcome, I would say since one half left with $40 million and the other half, the sum that's being talked about is $20 million, yeah, I would say that's pretty successful. Basically what I'm saying is that the adjective successful doesn't necessarily speak to the result of the fight. It doesn't necessarily speak to his capacity in the fight. It could be successful monetarily. It could be successful in the sense that he lasted at his age 8 rounds, so he feels like that's a personal success. Then he says victorious, which I guess is much more related to him suggesting that he's actually going to win. He's going to be the victorious one in the fight. And it's interesting that he said victorious as opposed to I'm going to win, I'm going to knock him out, which is a more concrete promise, quote unquote. But still, that successful is really interesting to me, that's where his mind went first. Then, after he provides the answer, Mike Tyson, successful, victorious, he himself changes the subject. He immediately gets off the topic and says, today is Ramadan, it's my holy holiday, so I can't say how I truly feel. Which, saying that he can't say how he truly feels, really corresponds.
Pauli Malignaggi offers a different perspective. He suggests the issue may not be a fix, but financial motivation. According to him, Julio's low punch count reflects a lack of preparation rather than scripting. Malignaggi explains that when fighters enter bouts primarily for money, their hunger to win disappears. Without the drive to succeed, performance naturally suffers. This interpretation shifts blame away from Jake while still highlighting issues within influencer boxing. It suggests the system itself encourages fighters to show up for paychecks rather than for pride.
I think that Jake Paul on the cards and the promotional arm of his brand, I think is the most fun part of what Jake Paul brings to boxing. Honestly, I think long term, I think that's what we can all hope for. Because Jake's fights are, this one was borderline atrocious, and kind of the writing was on the wall. But I gotta admit, even I bought drank the Kool-Aid, and mainly I drank the Kool-Aid because Chavez Sr., who also is disgraceful for doing this, made me believe, and I think, this has been the problem with Chavez Jr. He's been enabled constantly by the media, the promoters, his family, and all this other stuff. So he never really shows up prepared. He never cares and just shows up to get paid and basically steals the bag every single time. And he did it tonight again. The reason I actually thought this fight had a chance was because Chavez Sr. Guaranteed us that his son was motivated and was having a training camp. So as much of a Hall of Fame career as a father had, he's the con artist, I guess, must run in the family, because Junior has been a con artist his whole career, but at least he's been enabled through it, But now the father doing this, I mean, you knew already your son wasn't going to be ready. You put your own reputation on the line and sold us this crap. And then ultimately your son throws what most guys will throw in a round. He throws it through 10 rounds. It was actually kind of